Ravaged by drought, Lake Mead, the nation's largest reservoir, is currently at less than 30% of its capacity.
It may not be a surprise to you that the elevation at Lake Mead is relatively low.
There's been a lot of talk about Lake Mead leading into the 4th of July.
For years, Lake Mead has been shrinking, its receding waters exposing more than just drought. It's revealing a looming crisis for Las Vegas. As desperation grew, officials made a bold, almost unthinkable move, drilling deep beneath the lake to secure survival. It sounded like a last resort, but no one was prepared for what followed. Hidden beneath the surface, something unexpected began to unfold, raising questions far beyond water supply. So, what exactly did they discover? And why is no one talking about it openly?
Lake Mead, which in turn helps supply drinking water to about 25 million people in southern Nevada, southern California, Arizona. It also supplies hydroelectric power to 1.3 million households.
A city that shouldn't exist, and the lake that keeps it alive. Las Vegas is often described as a wonder of the modern world, but in truth, it is a wonder that exists on borrowed time. Rising out of the harsh Mojave Desert, a place known for its unforgiving heat, dry winds, and almost non-existent rainfall, this city of over 2 million people feels almost impossible. The land itself does not invite life. It resists it, and yet, against all odds, Las Vegas shines, bright lights, grand hotels, endless entertainment, and a culture built on reinvention and escape. At first glance, it feels limitless. Water flows through fountains, pools stretch across luxury resorts, air conditioners hum day and night, keeping the desert heat at bay. Life moves with confidence, as though resources are endless. But beneath this polished surface lies a far more fragile reality, one that threatens everything the city has built. That reality is simple. Las Vegas depends almost entirely on a single source of water. That source is Lake Mead. This vast reservoir, formed by the Colorado River, is the lifeline of the city. Nearly every drop of water used in Las Vegas, close to 90%, comes from it. Every sip of drinking water, every landscaped garden, every cooled building, and every resident's daily survival ties back to this one shrinking body of water. For decades, it quietly supported the rapid growth of the city, giving the illusion that it could keep up forever. But it couldn't. For more than 20 years, Lake Mead has been steadily declining. The change wasn't sudden at first. It was slow, almost unnoticeable, something easy to ignore. But year after year, the water levels dropped, the shoreline pulled back. Pale, chalky lines appeared along the surrounding rocks, marking where the water used to be. These bathtub rings became silent warnings, visible evidence of a reservoir in retreat. What was once full and dependable began to look fragile and uncertain. By 2022, the situation had reached a critical point. This was no longer a distant environmental concern or a problem for the future. It had become immediate, something that demanded attention right now. The numbers were alarming, the water levels were dangerously low, and the possibility that once seemed impossible started to feel real. Las Vegas was no longer just dealing with the idea of using less water. It was facing something far more serious, the risk of losing its water supply altogether. Not just restrictions, not just conservation measures, but the unimaginable, a complete failure of the system that keeps the city alive. A scenario where taps could run dry, where growth would stop, and where a thriving modern city could become unsustainable. It's difficult to grasp how extreme that is. Cities are built on the assumption of stability, especially something as basic as water. But here was Las Vegas, one of the most iconic cities in the world, staring at the possibility that its very foundation could disappear. The illusion of abundance was cracking, and as the water continued to fall, it became clear that something had to change, drastically and immediately. The city could no longer rely on hope or on the idea that things would somehow fix themselves. It needed action, innovation, solutions that had never been attempted at this scale, because this wasn't just about preserving luxury or maintaining appearances. It was about survival. And in that moment, when the risk became undeniable and the stakes could not be higher, everything changed. Why has the lake been struggling to feed the community? What is the capacity of the lake? Let's delve into the details of the background of Lake Mead, the history of Lake Mead. Lake Mead stands as the largest reservoir in the United States, a vast man-made lake born out of ambition, necessity, and bold engineering. Its story begins in the 1930s, during one of the most difficult periods in American history, the Great Depression. At a time when jobs were scarce and hope was fading, a massive project rose along the Colorado River, the construction of the Hoover Dam. Built between 1931 and 1936, the Hoover Dam was not just a wall of concrete, it was a lifeline. Engineers and workers labored under extreme conditions to create a structure that could tame the unpredictable Colorado River. The goal was clear: control dangerous floods, generate electricity, and ensure a steady water supply for the dry and growing lands of the American Southwest. As the dam neared completion, something extraordinary began to happen. Water that once rushed freely downstream started to gather behind the towering barrier, slowly spreading outward and rising higher until it formed what we now know as Lake Mead. The lake was named after Elwood Mead, a key figure in developing water projects across the region. By the late 1930s, Lake Mead had reached its full capacity, transforming the surrounding desert landscape into a place of opportunity. What was once dry and unforgiving land now had access to life-sustaining water. From that moment on, Lake Mead became a vital resource. It supplied water to major states like Nevada, Arizona, and California, supporting millions of people. Farms that once struggled began to flourish, cities expanded, and new communities emerged where none had existed before. The dam also produced hydroelectric power, lighting up homes and fueling industries across the region. In many ways, Lake Mead helped turn the desert into a thriving hub of human activity. Beyond its practical importance, the lake also became a place of beauty and leisure. Over the years, it attracted visitors from across the country who came to enjoy boating, fishing, and the calm, open waters. Families created memories along its shores, and it grew into one of the most popular recreational areas in the United States. Yet, this remarkable success story has taken a troubling turn in recent decades. Since the early 2000s, Lake Mead has been shrinking at an alarming rate. Long periods of drought, rising temperatures linked to climate change, and increasing demand for water have all contributed to its decline. The water levels have dropped so much that areas once hidden beneath the surface are now exposed, offering a stark and sometimes unsettling glimpse into the past. Today, Lake Mead tells two powerful stories at once. On one hand, it remains a symbol of human ingenuity, a reminder of what determination and innovation can achieve even in the harshest environments. On the other hand, it serves as a warning. It highlights the growing challenge of managing limited natural resources in a region where water is scarce, but demand continues to rise. As cities keep expanding and climates continue to shift, the future of Lake Mead hangs in the balance. Its story is no longer just about the past. It is about the choices people make today and how those decisions will shape the survival of this vital resource for generations to come. What is the most recent effort made to revive the lake? What's the scope of the project, and how much was spent? Let's find out. The $1.4 billion gamble, drilling into the unknown. With its future hanging in the balance, Las Vegas found itself staring at a problem that refused to be ignored. The water it depended on was slipping farther and farther away, retreating beyond the reach of existing systems. What once seemed like a distant concern had become an urgent crisis. Faced with this reality, the city made a bold and almost unthinkable decision, one that would push the limits of modern engineering. If the water could no longer be reached from above, then the only option left was to go below. Not just a little deeper, but deeper than anyone had ever dared before. This decision gave birth to what would later be called the Third Straw, an enormous underground tunnel carved beneath Lake Mead, stretching nearly 3 miles through solid rock far below the lake bed. The project aimed to tap into water reserves so deep that even the worst droughts in recorded history wouldn't be able to cut them off. It was a simple idea on the surface, but in reality, it was one of the most difficult engineering challenges ever attempted. This was not ordinary construction. It was a high-risk gamble against the forces of nature itself. To make it happen, engineers had to drill through layers of ancient volcanic rock, all while dealing with intense pressure from the massive weight of water sitting above them. The machine responsible for this task, a powerful tunnel-boring giant known as Sandy, became the heart of the operation. Day by day, it pushed forward through conditions that tested both human skill and endurance. The environment below was harsh and unpredictable. Temperatures soared. The rock formations shifted without warning. Hidden cracks could open suddenly, threatening to flood the tunnel at any moment. Every movement had to be calculated with extreme precision. There was no room for error. Progress was painfully slow. At times, it felt like the Earth itself was resisting. Every inch gained was hard-fought. Every mistake could have led to disaster. For 7 long years, the team worked under these intense conditions, facing danger at every step. Yet, despite the risks and setbacks, they kept going. And in the end, they achieved what once seemed impossible. The tunnel finally reached its target, an intake point sitting 860 feet below the surface. This made it the deepest of its kind in the entire United States. It was more than just a tunnel. It was a symbol of determination, innovation, and the refusal to give up in the face of overwhelming odds. But such an achievement did not come cheaply. The total cost of the project reached a staggering $1.4 billion, a price ultimately carried by the people of Las Vegas. Water bills increased and debates quickly followed. Many questioned whether this massive investment was truly the best solution. Some argued that the city should have focused more on reducing water use. Others suggested alternatives like desalination. To critics, the project looked less like a permanent fix and more like a temporary patch. City officials, however, saw things differently. To them, this was never about expansion or future growth. It was about survival, pure and simple. Without a reliable water source, the city's existence itself was at risk. And when lake levels dropped to dangerously low points, the value of the third straw became clear. It continued to pull water from depths that older systems could no longer reach, keeping the city supplied when it mattered most. Without it, Las Vegas might have already faced a severe water shortage. Yet even as water continued to flow through this remarkable system, one troubling question remained. Quiet, but impossible to ignore. Had the city truly secured its future? Or had it only bought itself a little more time? After spending a fortune on reviving the lake, was there a positive result? Did anything go wrong afterwards? Let's dive into the details of man's struggle against nature. The illusion of control. When nature pushes back, for a short while, it looked like a miracle of human ingenuity. Las Vegas had. He stared down a growing crisis and, against the odds, seemed to have found a way through it. Engineers had done their job brilliantly. The systems they built performed exactly as planned. Water continued to flow through the city's veins, steady and reliable. Life went on. For a moment, it felt like the problem had been solved. But nature does not surrender so easily. Far from stabilizing, Lake Mead kept shrinking. Slowly at first, then with alarming speed. Year after year, the waterline crept lower, exposing more of what had once been hidden beneath its surface. By 2021, the situation had become impossible to dismiss. For the first time in history, an official water shortage was declared along the Colorado River, a lifeline for millions. It was a warning, loud and clear, that the balance had shifted. Then came 2022, and the numbers told an even darker story. Lake Mead had dropped to just 26% of its full capacity, the lowest level since it was first filled nearly 100 years ago. What once seemed unthinkable had become reality. The evidence was everywhere, impossible to ignore. Boat docks, once floating gently on the water, now stood awkwardly on dry land, stranded far from the receding shoreline. The ground, once covered by deep blue water, had cracked under the relentless sun, turning into a dry, lifeless expanse. Along the canyon walls, a pale, chalky line, often called the bathtub ring, marked the lake's former heights, a haunting reminder of how much had been lost. Even more striking was what began to emerge from beneath the surface. As the water pulled back, it revealed pieces of the past, long thought gone forever. Old roads reappeared, leading nowhere. Abandoned buildings stood once more under the open sky, and the ghost town of St. Thomas, submerged decades earlier, rose again from the depths, as though history itself refused to stay buried. This was no ordinary drought. It was something deeper, a moment of reckoning, a clear sign that the environment was changing in ways that could no longer be ignored. Then, just when things seemed most dire, something unexpected happened. A powerful winter storm system swept across the Rocky Mountains, bringing with it an extraordinary amount of snowfall. The mountains were blanketed in thick layers of snow, far more than usual. When spring arrived and the snow began to melt, the effect was immediate. Rivers swelled with fresh water, rushing downstream into Lake Mead. The lake began to rise. In a single year, the water level climbed by more than 20 feet. It was a dramatic recovery, one that brought a wave of relief and renewed hope. For a moment, it felt like the crisis might be easing, that perhaps the worst had passed. But experts were quick to caution against celebration. One good year, they warned, cannot erase decades of decline. The bigger picture remained troubling. The system that supports the region's water supply is still under immense pressure. Climate patterns are shifting, temperatures are rising, and despite temporary gains, the overall trend continues to point downward. Beneath the surface, another, less visible danger is beginning to take shape. As water levels rise and fall, the lake bed is disturbed. Sediments that have settled over decades, holding industrial waste and harmful pollutants, can be stirred up. These toxins, once safely buried underwater, now risk re-entering the water system. This raises a new and unsettling question. Even if there is enough water, can it truly be considered safe? In the end, the challenge facing Las Vegas is no longer just about keeping the water flowing. It is about understanding that survival in such an environment is fragile, uncertain, and constantly evolving. The crisis was never fully defeated. It merely changed form. Will Las Vegas be able to survive the challenges? Is there sufficient plans that would stand the test of time? Let's delve into the details of the future of a desert city. Buying time in a losing game. Las Vegas didn't survive the harsh desert by relying only on bright lights and daring construction. It did something far more thoughtful. The city paused, looked within, and completely changed how it manages its most valuable resource, water. Instead of wasting it, Las Vegas learned to stretch every drop, reuse it wisely, and protect its future. What followed was not just smart planning, but a remarkable transformation. Against all odds, this desert city reinvented itself, proving that true survival isn't just about bold action. It's about careful thinking, innovation, and making the most of what you already have. Since 2002, the city has cut water use per person by more than 40%. Even as the population grew steadily, every drop indoors is treated, recycled, and sent back to Lake Mead, effectively giving the city the same water twice. Outdoor water use, once a major source of waste, has been overhauled. Lush lawns that once carpeted neighborhoods have largely been replaced with drought-tolerant landscaping. Decorative grass, once everywhere, is now banned in many parts of the city, saving billions of gallons each year. This isn't merely about saving water. It's about a transformation in mindset. Las Vegas has embraced conservation not as a temporary measure, but as a cultural shift. The city's residents and leaders alike have adjusted their habits, reimagining life in a desert where every drop counts. Yet even with these remarkable changes, there is a hard reality that cannot be engineered away. The Colorado River, lifeline for around 40 million people across 7 states, is under immense strain. Cities like Phoenix and Los Angeles draw from it. Farmers rely on it. Entire industries and economies depend on it. And together, all of these users are tapping a river that simply cannot produce enough water to meet rising demand. The situation grows even more alarming when history is considered. Climate records reveal periods known as mega droughts in the past, decades-long stretches of extreme dryness that far exceeded any shortage we've experienced in modern times. If such a mega drought were to strike again, even Las Vegas's deepest, most innovative tunnel could be rendered useless. The so-called third straw, the tunnel that reaches deep into Lake Mead to pull water even as levels drop, is an engineering marvel. It can reach lower than any previous system, accessing water that would otherwise be unavailable. But there is a limit. No tunnel can create water out of thin air. If Lake Mead sinks beyond a critical point, the city will no longer have enough water to sustain itself. The faucet will run dry, and no amount of ingenuity will change that. So, what has Las Vegas really accomplished? The city faced an impossible challenge and refused to surrender. It engineered its way forward, adapted its citizens' behavior, and postponed disaster. But postponing is not the same as solving. The tunnel didn't fix the desert. It didn't restore the Colorado River. It didn't end the looming crisis. What it did do, however, is buy precious time. Time for smarter policies. Time for interstate cooperation. Time for technological innovation. Time for nature, if it can recover, to offer a reprieve. The tunnel is finished. The system functions. Las Vegas continues to thrive in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Yet beneath the calm surface of Lake Mead, hidden in darkness, one undeniable truth remains. The clock is still ticking. Time is moving. The desert waits for no one. And while Las Vegas has proven it can fight back against the odds, the ultimate test has yet to come. So, what do you think about the Las Vegas drilling project? Could there be a better way to solve the problem? We'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.